Welcome to the 22nd Annual Polestar Awards. I'm Anand Venkateswaran, and it is a privilege to be your host this evening. First and foremost, because I'm now part of a tradition of celebrating excellence, a tradition that has distinguished itself with its commitment to this cause, with the kind of consistency year on year for over 2 decades that makes Polestar an institution, not just an initiative. This is why Polestar draws kindred spirits across all spheres of business, industry, social impact, media, and, in the case of our chief guest this evening, a convergence of all of these. Ladies and gentlemen, we have among us today Ronnie Screwvala, chairman and co-founder, Upgrad, and founder trustee, Swadesh Foundation. He's the Jack Warner of India, according to Newsweek, one of the 75 most influential people of the 21st century, according to Esquire, one of Asia's 25 most powerful business people, according to Fortune. According to us, he's an inspiration. This first-generation entrepreneur pioneered cable TV in India, built one of the largest toothbrush manufacturing operations in the country, and went on to create UTV, a global media and entertainment conglomerate, which he divested to the Walt Disney Company in 2012. And now, in his second innings, Ronnie is driven as ever in championing entrepreneurship from the ground up, in high-growth and impact sectors. Upgrad, for instance, zeroes in on the massive opportunity in online education at scale, with a focus on higher studies and specialization. U-Sports is committed to building a sports company, spanning kabaddi, football, motorsport, and esports through leagues, through team ownerships, and grassroots training programs. You must read his book, Dream with Your Eyes Open. Ronnie is also passionate about social welfare. He is founder trustee of the Swadesh Foundation with his wife Zarina, and their mission is to empower 1 million lives in rural India every 5 years through a unique 360-degree model. Now, those of us that know Sri Arun Jain will have by now felt a strong sense of déjà vu, that passion for entrepreneurship and the unique ability to see it as a powerful catalyst for social impact. Arun is the founder of Polaris, chairman and managing director of Intellect Design Arena, and founder of the Polestar Foundation and of Mission Samriddhi. Arun's path of entrepreneurship, deep domain expertise, vision, and planning began in 1993 when he founded Polaris Software Lab with just $250 and a dream. Intellect Design Arena Limited is his third venture in pursuit of making India the IP capital of the world, driving the next growth wave for the IT industry. As an evangelist of design thinking, he conceptualized and created FinTech 8012, the world's first design center dedicated to financial technology. Arun instituted Mission Samriddhi, a social impact enterprise dedicated to holistic human development in India. He has also nurtured the Ullas Trust, which works towards igniting less privileged young minds into realizing their true potential. Arun has been nominated as the chairperson of the Board of Governors of the Indian Institute of Information Technology in Ranchi, Jharkhand, by the Honorable President of India. Throughout his journey, much of which has been about catalyzing change in society, the Polestar Foundation has been a benchmark in shining a light on excellence, in celebrating those heroes who themselves identify new patterns in business, in technology, in the tapestry of humanity which move us forward. And this 22nd edition of the Polestar Awards is especially significant because it celebrates journalism in the COVID era. The pandemic has distanced us physically, but brought us closer than ever in some ways, and journalism has been the key to doing this. Every time it felt like the world was plunged into darkness, quality journalism across business, technology, and those moments of courage and kindness, these held up a torch. They kept us informed, kept us sane, and gave us hope. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have a lot of ground, much fertile ground to cover this evening, and so much to celebrate in style. Speaking of style, kicking things off, I'm going to call onto this virtual stage Dibal Dutt, Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer of Intellect Design. But before I do so, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Let us now invoke light from the goddess of intellect, Saraswati. Om या कुन्देन्दुतुषारहारधवला या शुभ्रवस्त्रार्विता या वीणावरदण्डमण्डितकरा या श्वेत पद्मासना या ब्रह्माच्युत शंकर प्रभृतिभिः देवैः सदा वन्दिता सा मां पातु सरस्वती भगवती निःशेष जाट्यापहा निःशेष जाट्यापहा.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to the first virtual Polestar Award in its 22nd year. We did not believe that we would have an event like this virtually, but that's what the entire world has turned into. It's turned into being virtual. I start off with a quote by Philip Graham, co-owner of Washington Post, who says, "Journalism is the first rough draft of history. This evening, we celebrate not only history, but history makers." Bill Kovach and Tom Rosenstiel, in the seminal book on the elements of journalism, which is a Bible in most in colleges and schools of journalism, describes journalism as storytelling with a purpose. Journalists at heart are storytellers who are not allowed that the imagination interfere with the plot. Anything can be news, but not every news is newsworthy. Journalism is a process in which a reporter uses verification and storytelling to make a subject newsworthy. And that got me thinking. Being a marketer, I understand how important storytelling is all about. When I joined Intellect about 20 months back, what struck me was the power of design thinking and how we could use the principles of design thinking in creating very impactful stories. And this is my personal take on how similar the pillars of journalism are with the pillars of marketing. In journalism, like in marketing, we start off by doing research, asking the right questions to the right people, and making the story verifiable and robust in its facts. From the research stage, we go on to storyboarding, sifting through and highlighting what in design thinking principles we call the 1,000-gram items. What are the main items? Let's not waver off from the main items. What are the key items that we need to focus on? That creates the foundation of a really good story. And identifying within those 1,000-gram items, what are the patterns and anti-patterns? Finally, when we've put the storyboard together, based on the research that we've done, we do story weaving. How a story is told is very important to the reader. And he is wedded to the story. We need to make him absolutely wedded to the story. The objective here is to keep the pace taut, engage the reader, and make him feel that the story is relevant and significant. While all the steps gives a marketer weeks, and sometimes it gives us months to come up with a campaign and a brand story, for y'all from the journalist fraternity, this is at times almost real time. And that is where lies my utmost regard and humility in front of the fourth estate assembled here. Getting the story out there requires a sense of reliability, fearlessness, bravado, and an ability to look into and shape the future. And that exactly are the values of the Polestar Awards. And that has stood the test of time over more than 2 decades. Let me now shift gears to what the evening lies ahead for all of you all. I start off with a quote from Lisa Goldberg, who said, "People who refer to out of box see the box. People who don't know the box even exists are the innovative thinkers." The problem with thinking inside boxes that we become insensitive to subtlety and refinements. We give ourselves the leeway to stop thinking and allow ourselves to be compartmentalized. This evening, our fireside chat brings together, for the very first time, 2 icons who did not believe a box existed. Therefore, through sheer hard work and grit, they challenged stereotypes, they broke established norms, and they dreamt big, and became hugely successful, but with their heart firmly in place at the center at what they do. That, ladies and gentlemen, will be the fireside chat with Ronnie and Arun. Once again, a very warm welcome, and I shall not keep you all waiting for an interesting evening that is about to unfold on your screens. Thank you.
Thank you, Dibal, for that story of how stories are told. It was a study in warmth and sincerity and set the perfect context for this evening. Context is part of the all-important 4 C's: content, context, connect, and communicate, on which the Polestar Awards are designed and are the basis on which the nominations are evaluated every year. And this year truly upped the ante in terms of the quality of submissions and the quantum as well. The Polestar Foundation has received 464 nominations, the highest over the last 5 years. That's 109 in technology, 179 in business, and 176 for the good news feature. The challenge of passing through great work, the responsibility of choosing from among them, is immense. At the heart of this process is an independent and distinguished panel of jury members, which include Mr. Abhay Gupte, MD and CEO, Manipal Technologies Limited, Mr. David Appasamy, Management Consultant, Dr. Ashok Korwar, Management Consultant, Ms. Aruna Rao, Advisor, Technology Strategy, Kotak Mahindra Bank, Mr. Sriram Sivaram, Joint Managing Director, Madras Engineering Industries Private Limited, Mukesh Sharma, Co-founder and Managing Director, Mentera, and Ms. Vijay Lakshmi Rao, Business Advisor and Mentor. We spoke with Mr. Mukesh Sharma to capture his thoughts about the jury process and his vision for the initiative. Can we play the clip, please?
Good evening, everyone. As I was thinking what I should say, the memories of the wonderful venues, interactions with the distinguished guests, and in-person deliberations with the jury flashed in my head. I'm sad that we're missing that experience, but I'm equally glad that we've not let the distance affect our enthusiasm. The world has adapted, and so have we. On behalf of my fellow jury members and the Polestar team, I welcome you all to the 22nd and the first ever virtual Polestar Award function. 2020 was a year of staying home. It was a year of new ways of life, new choices, being on mute and reading. Some of us may have faced difficult times, lost dear ones, and felt despair, but we were kept going through the stories of inspiration, courage, and hope. In difficult times, we were true heroes and great journalism. That is what Polestar is all about. Leading the way, celebrating truly independent, credible, and high-quality journalism. It seems the challenges of 2020 brought the best in our journalists. We received 176 nominations in the good news category and highest ever number of total nominations across all categories. 7 of us, my fellow jury members and I, were in for a treat. We were looking forward to reading these wonderful articles, and we were not disappointed. We picked up interesting trends. The traditional media continues to do well, but the digital media gave a tough competition. New themes were not only discovered, they were also covered. There were articles on a variety of issues, like saving an island from disappearing, uncovering an interesting mystery from our history, and of course the themes that defined the 2020: work from home, lockdowns, reverse migration, and joblessness. India has always been in focus. We were glad that the issues of Bharat found place in many of your stories. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the journalists for their great efforts and for keeping good journalism alive. The excellent work that you all produced made our task exciting but difficult. However, the hard work, diversity and experience of the jury helped us pick 5 top nominations and winner in each category. Congratulations to all the nominees and the winner. So without further ado, let us review the top articles and meet the winners. Thank you.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I must confess, I was a little overwhelmed by the eminence of our jury panel, and I might have misspoken the designation of one of our distinguished jury panelists. Mr. David Appaswamy is the head of brand and strategy at Social Beat. Now, I admire this distinguished jury, but I do not for a second envy them. And I am curious to see how these insights that Mr. Mukesh just shared color this next part of our evening. This year, at the 22nd Annual Polestar Awards, we are breaking away or evolving, in a sense, from the traditional keynote address. Instead, we are going to light up the proceedings with a fireside chat between Ronnie and Arun on the topic Unboxing Notions, Business, Technology, and Social Impact. And to fan the flames and temper them at times, I now call upon Mr. Ram Pappu, Program Director, Mission Samriddhi. The stage is yours, Ram.
Thank you very much, Anand and Debel, for setting the context. In the mid to late 70s, when India was more of a socialist economy with stringent protection and regulation, when doing business wasn't easy, when youth chose the comfort of a government job or chose to work for large corporates, be it private sector or the large public sector organizations, when there weren't enough jobs in the first place, and when the word entrepreneurship wasn't much sought after. So you're getting the drift of how things were then. And yet, two youngsters around the same time, roughly around the same age, growing up, thousands of kilometers apart, in humble, hardworking, and relatively large middle-class families, were looking at things very differently, asking questions which others around wouldn't, spotting opportunities which others around them couldn't, originate and build upon their ideas with fierce self-belief. Not for them the typical 9-to-5 jobs. And strikingly similar, as teenagers, one would arrange and sell balcony tickets from his building overseeing a film theater to watch film stars arrive for the premiere show. And the other would arrange a film show in his colony, sell tickets, arrange food through potluck, and generate a modest profit, most of which would be plowed into weekly social work activity. And there probably began their entrepreneurship journeys. One went on to become one of India's greatest fintech entrepreneurs, making a mark globally, while the other became one of India's greatest media entrepreneurs, media barons. And yes, first generation and first of a kind. Ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed my pleasure and privilege to warmly welcome Mr. Rohinton Soli Screwwala, whom we fondly know as Mr. Ronnie Screwwala, founder of UTV Group, Swades Foundation, and upgrad among several successful startups. And our own Mr. Arun Jain, Chairman, Managing Director, Intellect Design Arena, and founder, Mission Samriddhi. Welcome, sirs. Welcome to the 22nd Polestar Awards function this evening.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. And thank you for having us here.
Let's start off this discussion, and I would like to our guest today, Ronnie, thank you very much, sir, for having, and we're very pleased to have you with us here today. So from pioneering cable TV to creating UTV Group with Upgrad and several successful startups and more coming, and of course, Swadesh Foundation, empowering lakhs of families with holistic development in Raigad district. We would love to hear your perspective of doing business and its larger purpose.
So maybe I'll just start with, firstly, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for all the lovely comments that you read both on Arun and me. I wish life was as clear and as visionary as you make it out to be. You know, I think vision is something that kind of unfolds with people over a certain period of time. I found serendipity plays a big role in pretty much what you do. Not everything else, not everything is exactly as you planned it out to be. It's important to dream. It's important to dream with your eyes open, absolutely. But at the same time, and it's important to dream big. And I think one of the things I've found is that people feel, you know, you don't have to come from a particular background or a particular city necessarily to be able to dream big. And I think that's been something that's been important. But to me, vision is something that's an iterative process. It starts with a lot of self-conviction, a lot of self-confidence. And I think two things here that I've learned is the ability to stick it out. I think today more than ever, people who start off, they don't stick it out as often. You cannot time success and you cannot time failure. And the only way you can actually get on and try and be eventually successful, eventually, is by sticking it out. So one of the clear criterions for me has been always not to have a plan B when it comes to real life situations in life. And the reason I tell you that is when I started up, and you started by saying at a time in which most people were not looking at being first generation entrepreneurs. Yes, you're right. It had a sense of, you know, if you haven't landed yourself a good job, now you've got no other option but to start working for yourself, which is a pretty looked down upon aspiration at that stage. It hasn't changed that much there. So when you look at that kind of environment, you need a lot of self-conviction and a lot of clarity. And I think that's pretty much what stood me by in that very early stage. And what I would tell people today also is we've got to have the ability to stick it out. At that first moment, when I approached my parents that I wanted to start something, they said they were shocked, like all parents do. They would nudge me to try and take a job like all parents would do, because you think that's the secure future, because entrepreneurship does not give you a secure future. And then comes the negotiation, right? All right, if you do want to do so, why don't you first finish your management or your chartered accountancy and then start something? Which means, by the way, if it doesn't work out for you, you can always land yourself a good job. And I think that is the epicenter and the crux of the momentum, the self-confidence, and the self-conviction. To not have that limb that says, I could do that, which means I can always go down to becoming, going back to taking on a job, was pretty much the event that made me stay with Plan A's most of my life.
Wow. Thank you, Rodney. It was wonderful listening to you. Arun, first and foremost, an entrepreneur, a business leader, and yet you have, in some sense, redefined the traditional definition of business. I mean, which is to primarily generate profits for its owners, investors, based on great quality of products and services that you deliver to your customers, and that being it. Please share your perspective and thoughts on the purpose of doing business.
Tony has shared beautiful thing that's not, it turns out to be, you can't visualize that we could be 1,000 crore or 100 crore when you are starting a journey. You just be knowing the direction and the purpose of the customer serving. So customer becomes an important piece in the purpose of the business, that what problem of the customer are you solving? You identify a space in which you are solving some problem, and that problem is solved in an efficient manner, then most of the people can do. So that customer believes the value of what you are delivering to him, and he is willing to pay the value for the service he is getting. So it starts from idea, and it ends up with the impact in the customer life. During the journey, you may get some investors when you want to have a dream becoming validated, and then you move from desirability to feasibility, and then when you do the viability part, you may need some more cash, and then you start getting the investor into the piece, and then he moves on in creating the more efficient, innovative solutions for the customer or the marketplace. Then the second journey of entrepreneurship happens when they start looking for the purpose of the business. First, purpose of any business is survival. He has to be ensuring that he is able to meet his two ends to complete the purpose. In the olden time, it was much more important. Nowadays, you get a funding on the day of starting. Our time, we never had a funding. It's all bootstrap. So you have to earn 2 lakh rupees to invest 2 lakh rupees. So it has to become into profit of the company. Then only you can invest. It's no more the case. Now you get a 2 crore investment before you start it, or angel funding. There was no concept of angel funding. Angel funding was your own hard work which can be there. But if you distill the business, it's solving some customer problem and using some technology. The technology, I'm not saying software technology or hardware technology. Any technique, tools which is applied, that's a Webster definition of the technology. Technique, tools, and software, hardware, anything which is applied as a technology is to solve the customer problem in better, efficient way, is a way we can make the larger impact for the customer life. And once we make a larger impact of the customer life, then he is willing to pay some share of the impact which you shared in his life in the business. Now, if I look at the today topic of business, technology, and social business, the new vocabulary which is emerging, we are keeping them into 3 different boxes. One is called business, second is called technology, and third is called social business. To me, they are connected, and if in social business, the only difference is this investor and the consumer, the beneficiary, are the same. So beneficiary of the social business is a investor stakeholder. So if you look at it, if the business is done in an honest way, it creates an impact. All the telecom industry in the last 20 years have created such a large impact in the social business. Should we call all the telecom company, Bharti Airtel, Vodafone, or Reliance Jio as a social businesses? I would say they are more social businesses because they provided a mobile on a billion people. In 1991, when myself and Ashok Jhunwala used to think about 100 million lines of telecom, we didn't have a solution for 100 million lines of telecom. It was only 1 million lines of telephone lines used to be there, and we were sitting in IIT Madras and sitting out that how do we make 100 million lines. And that was our big dream in 91. With Ashok Jhunwala, we have 100 million. Now we have billions lines automatically happened without government intervention. At that time, we were discussing how much money it will require to make it a 100 million lines of phone lines. So it's a very, very interesting thing that there's a thin line between business, social business, and technology. And that's the important message for the journalists, that don't put in boxes, because ideas are ideas, impact is impact, and let's then connect ideas to impact with the better practices and better technology that are internationally available or within India available. So that's a long answer to the short question which you asked.
Thank you, Arun. And you sort of kind of preempted my next question. And we're talking about social business. So Professor Mohammed Yunus talks about social business. And in his words, he says that a company with a social mission at its core, set up to solve a specific problem to the benefit of disadvantaged members of society. The social business operates exactly like normal companies, generating profit, and aims to be financially self-sustaining, without charity, without donations, right? And the stark difference being that investment from the investors is paid back, but no dividends, because all the profits are reinvested 100% into generating sustainable social impact with efficiency. This is what Professor Yunus talks about social business, and we are seeing this kind of evolving now, and quite a few social businesses coming up, and funds being set up to kickstart such social businesses. My question to Ronnie would be, kind of sounds too good to be true, social business where no dividends to the investors, impact, I mean, all the profits being directly reinvested. So what's your take on this? How do you see this happening in India? And we'd love to hear your thoughts on social business.
So I think, I mean, I have a slightly contrarian view. I think in any case, even when there is a large corporate, most of it is not in dividends. Most of it is actually plowed back into businesses. But I have a slightly contrarian view on this, because I think in any enterprise for scale, either it is not for profit or it is for profit. And I think when you put it for less profit, there's a confused vision in that. That doesn't mean that hardcore for profit cannot be for impact. I think what we do in education today is for impact. But for us, a not-for-profit in Swadesh is a not-for-profit. So I only say that with a sense where, because a lot of social entrepreneurs here think that, okay, as you rightly said, I'll make a little bit of less profit, but I'm going to be able to do good to society. The question normally arises is, will you impact at scale? Because most problems need to get solved at scale, especially for countries like India and many countries around the world. You have to solve a problem at scale. And what necessarily happens is you have a better chance if you're focused on saying, I'm in the impact sector, but I will be for profit, because from that profit attracts larger capital. Larger capital attracts you to make a larger impact in the long run. So I'm absolutely totally in for the context that businesses today more than ever need to have a mixture of impact, but we should take that by solving a problem at scale. And I think a lot of social entrepreneurs get mixed up between for less profit and for profit, as if there's a separation between the two. And that would be my word of caution.
Thank you, Ronnie. I think that brings a lot of clarity to this point that you very nicely illustrated. Polestar Foundation has been celebrating excellence in journalism and media. So, Ronnie, media, as we know, have the power to influence society at large. So what role do you think journalists can play in unboxing the notion? I mean, Arun was talking about unboxing business and technology and social impact. They're all intertwined. They're not really different entities, as we normally assume. We have seen so many examples of many companies in India doing this beautifully. And so how do you think media can actually bring to the forefront such stories, so that more people can be inspired?
Yeah, no, I think media is a very, very, very powerful medium, but it's also a very onerous medium, because I think anyone who sees themselves as a journalist, anyone who sees themselves as any part of the media value chain, needs to understand the responsibility that goes with it, because you're right. We are influencing minds, we are influencing thoughts, we are inspiring people, or we're agitating people, or we're rallying people. So it's a very, very responsible job. I think from a journalistic point of view, and journalistic not in a narrow sense, but in as broad a sense, I think our job is to really look at depth in many ways. Some of the things that I think we do in terms of reporting or whatever else, the more we can go into the depth of it, the more inspiring it gets. I think people today more, and especially the youth, is looking for situations where you tell me the whole truth and nothing but the truth, or you tell me the whole story rather than a superficial one. I think the other real part there is not about just finding the unsung heroes and talking about inspirational stories, but really being able to have a very balanced view. The responsibility for a journalist is to really have a depth and a balanced view. And I think that is something that many, many practice in many aspects. In some ways, we're also evangelists. Entrepreneurship only got a platform when the Prime Minister of India said, Startup India is what I want as a situation. And sometimes most parents that would ask their kids, don't be stupid, why do you want to do? Now started saying, okay, well, if the Prime Minister of the country says that. Similarly, I think journalism and journalists have that point of view that you are on a permanent pedestal. It's up to you how you inspire. It's up to you how you clarify. It's up to you how you evangelize. It's up to you how you tell a story, because most people, when they read it, 90% of them will take it at face value. So if somebody's going to take you at face value but never met you, how do you build that credibility with what you want to do? I think it's a very, very important part. And this is more when you're looking at journalism in that sense. I think when you look at now the new media of OTT platforms, for the first time, documentary has become a respectable category. Otherwise, most people thought it was relegated to the films division. Today, any journalist can actually get into a huge depth. Between YouTube and the OTT platforms, you can actually be quite piercing in a video sense and actually look at documentary now. What has happened is storytelling with a realistic context has soared in the minds of almost everyone that's there. So when you're saying storytelling, most people would look at it as a fiction. Today, non-fiction is playing a very, very important part in storytelling. Almost that fictional stories are being much better viewed when you have the line in the beginning, inspired by a true event, based on a true story, based on a true event. So if you take all of these parameters, I think the next 10, 20 years are very, very exciting, but also very responsible for people in a broad sense of journalism, but in a much more broader sense of storytellers and evangelists for influencing people's thinking and minds.
Thank you, Ronnie. Arun, I know this for a fact that you're a big fan and a big believer of storytelling. And we've heard of the power of storytelling as part of your design thinking process, which you talk about, right? So Arun, what are your thoughts on the power of media in unboxing these notions and transforming mindsets, as Ronnie earlier referred to? And that's what media does beautifully.
I'll take Ronnie point that role of the media is to influence, use the word inspiration, agitating the mind, he used it. So to me, media is around 5 elements. First is inform. We inform the truth, what is happening in the society around us. It's a history in making in the beginning, somebody mentioned. It's influencing the community. It is inspiring the community. Interacting with it, now there's a possibility of interacting with the community. Earlier, the interaction was not possible. With social media, journalism can evolve into a very interactive way. It can be done to create a finally fifth I call impact. But what does the impact means? Impact is linked to the development process. Development process could be a personal development process of the community. Who is my community? Who is my target audience? If as per design thinking, if I look at customer as who is my customer? In India, there is a two India, as all the time we listen to. There are 690 districts in India. And there are some 100 cities in India. So journalism today focuses on 100 cities versus 690 districts. And each district in India is equivalent to a small European country which has a 2 million population. So district sizes are between 2 million to 4 million people, which is like various countries in Europe. Now, with the digital technology available, the whole journalism has to just catch up like a wildfire, because we need to see journalism coming in a district level, because this journalism has to be local to me to make a context to me. As Ronnie says, it's a contextual in nature. Journalism is never out of context. I will not appreciate anything which is happening in Japan. I may inspire from Japan news, but it will not be making a difference to my life. If it doesn't make a difference to my life, I will not be interested in that story. So true story becomes important in that kind of a context. So the whole impact which is there for human development, personal development, social development, economic development, technology development, and ecological development. So there are 5 spheres or 5 circles of development in which every news, every story of journalism creating impact on. And then when we look at social development, then as Mission Samriddhi, we say D21, education, D22, healthcare, D23, social justice, D24, sanitation, D25, water. There will be some element of the 5 elements of the social development. Economic development will say what is agriculture, what is the best practices of agriculture, what is the SHGs, what is the FPOs are there. How many news do we get in today which are related to SHGs and FPO, which are which is engaging more than 100 million people in the country? How is the journalism getting, what is the best practices of that? Because to me, journalism brings the best of the society on the forefront. And the best of the forefront, if best practices of corporate comes in, that media, UTV has done this thing, Star TV has done thing, we learn from each other. Infosys has done something, TCS has done something, Polaris has done something, we learn from each other. But over here, the big opportunity in India for media to create impact is to pick up the best practices of 900 million people, which is 2/3 of our population, which is live in the rural India. Also along with the urban cities, which is a responsible journalism, what Ronnie was mentioning, which is an important piece, but this business has to double up with the complete space which is available. And today with digital technology, it's not necessary that need to come in a Times of India or a Economic Times or some national publications. Their distribution is much, much lower than a single social media follower on YouTube. As Ronnie was saying that you can get a YouTube channel. YouTube channel can be created now. Documentary can be created for a Yavatmal district or a Wardha district or a Bagpat district. Any district you can create a news channel on that particular district. You don't need a central investment for doing it. You need a commitment of journalists to become focused on one particular element and create an impact.
Thank you, Arun. So I think this sort of kind of, again, preempting a thought, I'm picking up from where you left it, Arun. And we know for a fact, journalism today, there's a lot of an urban bias in journalism. So, Ronnie, and you've been in the media business, and very similar to what we are doing in Mission Samriddhi, you're doing very deeply, you and your team in Raigad district, and the holistic development that's happening. How do you see, this question for Ronnie, in fact, how do you see journalists playing a role in the holistic development of India, primarily rural India? Arun did refer to 900 million people. What are your thoughts on this, Ronnie, in terms of any newspaper you see, there's a whole lot of coverage only on urban issues, urban India, but we don't see that focus. And so how do we bring in rural India and more stories on rural India and transforming India in the holistic development of India?
Yeah, no, it's a very important point. And I think the problem here with journalism overall is that the final deliverables seem to always be, that you are supporting an organization for profit. The other problem is circulation equal to advertising revenues has always been the main part. Versus when you're reporting in for a subscription base, it changes the parameter all. So you find that the editorial is balanced and can give you a lot of in-depth stories. When you are looking at it where the readership has to equal to advertising revenues, the top stories really have to be something that is concurrent, gets your attention, gets people's eyeballs, gets the reading, and needs to be current. And therefore, even though there are a lot of journalists committed to doing more deeper stories, it gets relegated to another page and therefore doesn't become popular. And I think the future of subscription news could change that. A little bit like I mentioned earlier when it comes to documentaries. The second part here is really that it's like the entrepreneurial business, right? I mean, today when you see all our papers, they only talk about the fundraising. So the fundraising is always with the sexy industries, either the new commerce industries or the new economy industries. Nobody's actually evangelizing and talking about, it's the same equivalent of 3 people who are doing something in waste management or drip irrigation, which are not, they are for profit. They may have even got funded. They're not being evangelized, which is the equivalent of saying, I'll look at the stories. So I think it requires a very concerted effort for people. It also comes with the training. When you decide you want to be a journalist, when you decide you take your course, you decide. It's like when you become a lawyer, you figure out whether you want to do civil or criminal matters, you want to go into a specialization on this. I think we need an entire reservoir of people who are committed that we will go with these stories. They're not going to be just reportage. Today, why is it less important to figure out how 3 farmers got together and became casual entrepreneurs that created an ecosystem that then did something else versus an entrepreneur who raised $30 million? As far as I'm concerned, the 2 stories are equal. Okay. Now it's up to the commitment of the journalist and the editorial committee to be able to make that story equally interesting, equally fascinating for people to read it and be more inspired by somebody that's doing that than somebody who managed to raise 30 million and is now going to figure out what business he or she is going to create. So I think it's a question of priority. I think it's a question of focus and training at your early stage. And I think it's about then working even harder for storytelling. And lastly, it's about a model where you need a little bit more of less dependency on advertising revenues, therefore eyeballs. And I think subscription and digital will allow people to tell those stories better.
Thank you, Ronnie. We increasingly hearing about a triple P bottom line. I mean, people are talking not just profit, but we are talking about people and planet. And Ronnie, you did refer to it earlier also about not being exploitative. You don't have to distribute dividends, but the profits, you can be reasonable in the way you're plowing your profits back into the business. For a business to become more social and more humane, it has to start with the key stakeholders, one of them being the investors. So how can investors be influenced to have a little larger perspective on the purpose of business, that looking beyond profits to make a difference in the quality of life, looking at people and the planet? So how can investors be influenced? We would love to hear, maybe Arun, do you want to comment on this? And then we would love to hear Ronnie's thoughts also on this, please.
Anything, Ronnie can comment on it, but this is a critical issue.
Yeah, no, I can give it a crack. I think the onus is with the founder. It's with the leader. It's with the CEO. It's with the managing director. It's with the chairman. I don't think investors play a role. They're not negative to that thought process. They are there to back the founder's vision. And I think founders and leaders and CEOs of companies, if they believe that this is where we want to get and this is where we're going to do that, very few investors will say, okay, but how much are you going to do? It's a little bit like an R&D budget, right? No investor is going to be able to decide what is an R&D budget. So here, it's a combination of R&D, it's a combination of brand building, because at the end of the day, the value is not going to come from that profit of the year. It's going to come from brand building. It's going to be, how do you attract a consumer base that really says, I like this company, I respect this company, I want to go work with this company, or I want to go buy something or consume something from this company. So therefore, I think it's an incredible investment. It's not something where you need to feel I need to sell it to my investors or shareholders. I think it's very much a part of this thing. And it starts and ends with the leader, the founder, the CEO. If they believe this is what needs to be done, they should do it. I think everyone will fall in line.
Very interesting, Ronnie. I think if you look at Google, when we started as search engine, was it a social business? Was it not for profit? Where the investor was saying, don't give it free. Today, we don't charge for any mail service. Gmail, Hotmail, so all come free to us. Even in 1990, I used to spend at least 100 rupees or 200 rupees monthly budget on some buying the inland letters and aerograms at that point of time. Today, all come free to us. So I think, but still the businesses make profit. These two linkage today in going forward, making profit and contributing to the impact, I think that will get quite muddled up in the whole thing. Investor interest is to make a profit today or tomorrow, or taking a larger target addressable market for the services you are providing to him. So as Ronnie said that it's on the founders, what principles he is doing. If Tata shares a principle of doing a type of a business, they articulate it very clearly. So going forward, many corporates which are coming new, they are articulating that what is their social purpose and how they're taking care of the planet going forward. And that message has to go to hundreds and thousands of the company. So that's the one part of it. Second stakeholder is your employees. That any corporate, any organization has got 1,000 employees to 100,000 employees. Now these employees can participate in making a big difference because they have a weekend, they want to participate in the social activity. How do we engage them into the whole social impact along with it? And what kind of stories can be created? Last Trust was created only with that purpose, that we need to have, if one employee of the company can mentor a child in high school, and you have a 5 million corporate employees, we can have 5 million students can get a annual mentoring of one elder brother and elder sister who can inspire them, who can clarify their doubts and ignite their minds. We are doing it at a small scale with a few corporations and few thousand, but still they are impacting 250,000 students a year just by having a one conversation with a student. For a student in a village, if you get a one phone call from an urban person, his inspiration level just goes up substantially. We experience that in our Last Trust activity. So what you are saying, Ram, is a beautiful point. How do we connect all these dots in the way new decade will come up? Is a good big opportunity is coming up with digital agenda, which is there, and tools available on WhatsApp, tools available similar to WhatsApp, whatever the tool may be there, but they are available. Digital is available. Video conferencing is available. Small time, half an hour given to a small child for mentoring could be simple solution for many of the, and what our learning is, our employees learn more than they learn more than what they give. Because they become humble, they start knowing what humility means, and they are better performing on the business side also by learning from the rural India or young child, a humble child. So that's a big trait. Humility is a big trait for any business.
Thank you, Arun. So Arun, we talked about investors earlier, and you were talking about employees and customers, especially weaving their larger sense of social responsibility. Ronnie, and you are in a unique position, being in the media industry. The way you and your teams have facilitated this, and you have done it through the power of film. to, inform and inspire employees there, but certainly your customers. I mean, all the movie-going audiences, and we're all, fans of Bollywood here, and you have done it over successive years through very powerful films that have really inspired, inspired whole new generations, right? We would love to hear your thoughts on this, Ronnie, especially about how your customers have been inspired, in getting their larger sense for social responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I have to caveat that since 2012, I've not been active in the media sector. But I think for me, education and edtech is actually quite similar. I think what I carried from my media learning days was storytelling. And I think edtech and education itself, in a way, is very, very engaging storytelling. The most you really realize and remember is a professor or a faculty or somebody else who teaches you and engages you in the most possible manner. And some of the most memorable things for you is case studies and when they come alive. So I think this is a very, very strong context here of this power of storytelling to influence on people's lives and stay, not momentarily. So I think I've been very blessed and very fortunate that in my first part of my journey, I could do that in media, and now I can do that in education, where you're leaving a lasting, recurring impression on people if you can get it right. I think we stood out in our media days in storytelling because of two things. One, I was the outsider. And since I was the outsider, I had no choice but to look at things from a very different way and not look at the normal genres, the high entertainment genres, and whatever else. Nothing wrong with them, but my choice was if I had to stand out, I needed to have a sense where it was much more direct, a sort of strong scripts, strong storytelling at the core of it, and a sense of realism. So because I was thrown into that opportunity, if I wanted to do storytelling, I think we really stood out because there was the entertainment genre, and then there was the enthralling of entertainment with some sense of message and meaning genre, not in any art form manner. So at the time at which we did a movie like Rang De Basanti, for example, I think it's something that really stood out with people in a very different manner. We did a movie called Lakshya, and till today, people from the army call in and say, that movie has inspired so many people to join the armed forces. And then we did a movie called Swades, from which our foundation is being aimed. At that time, it didn't do well, and we always call a movie that didn't do well before its time. And it was before its time in terms of the message, but it was an engaging storytelling, which today now people find relevant. To later on, when I just, 2 years back did Uri, Surgical Strike, for example, strong patriotic feelings. It's the soft power impression and a sense of pride that comes in. I mean, the reason why the US is a strong soft power, a lot of that is to do with their ability to tell great stories. They almost sound like they won World War II. The Russians had nothing to do with it. The British had nothing to do with it. It's just the Americans, because they made 40 phenomenal war movies, which almost sounds like if America didn't come into the World War II, it would be a completely different thought process. So that level of impact, that level of storytelling, that level of national pride is what I think works very well. And I just feel very, very fortunate and blessed that I'm part of a group of people that can continue to do that.
Thank you, Ronnie. And I just want to share something with you. This is not part of the script. And I've never shared this with Arun also earlier. 2005, I was working for IBM in Canada. And I drove 50 miles towards Swades in a place called Oakville. It's not like today where you have, movies releasing in so you have to drive a distance to get tickets. So, end of the movie, that was when the seed of, moving back. What am I doing here? And that kind of seeded, so this is a fanboy moment for me, Ronnie, and I just wanted to share this with you.
No, that's fantastic. And I think that's what the power of storytelling is. And that's what I think journalism is a little bit of a word that needs to now be much more contemporary. Your ability to tell stories in whatever form now today has got the power to influence a lot of people's minds. Much, much more than what you did 10 years ago or 5 years ago.
Absolutely. Arun, in terms of how do you see government in shaping, empowering, and even catalyzing the social aspect of business more than what we already have today? I mean, we've had CSR, and the CSR Act is getting refined and there are more changes. But do you see a role for government in terms of expanding the whole concept of, bringing the social, the humane aspects into business? I would first like to ask you, Arun, and then maybe we will have even Ronnie share his thoughts on this, please.
I think government has a big role. Government has last year budget was 26 lakh crore, which goes for the development processes. So fundamental, they have, when I look at a deeper analysis of the government policy, I find the government policies, which one of our startup is doing, Hakdarshak is looking at it. If you distill the policy, they have a policy for almost all the segment of the society, very well done. So policies, the policy frameworks are well designed. Even state policies are well designed. I think the question is connecting the dot of this policy to the beneficiary, and beneficiary should understand how to get benefited out of the policy which is being there or a scheme which is there. Now, where the storytelling government plays a very important role is government never tells the scheme as a storytelling. If the last mile can be there where all the government schemes can be translated into story format. Whenever any scheme is announced, we have a one documentary of the policy, who is a beneficiary, how it is done, and how you can claim it, having a small video clip on it, or there could be many other ways to tell the stories which are there replicable for the villages and panchayat. I think government has a big role if media, not a media, this is like I think communication. I'm not saying who is the role, because as of now we are boxing media or journalism as a separate boxes. I'm saying there's an unbox it. There's a need of government to connect to this policy, to the storytelling piece, which is the one important piece of journalism or media together. But the government participation today, I'm seeing substantial change in last 20 years. Many systems here development are happening with the government, and all the five legs of the development, personal development to social development, to economic development, to technology development and ecological development, all the five functions of the development. If we have good stories and good case studies around each development, whether it's coming from Maharashtra, it's coming from Andhra Pradesh, it's coming from UP, it's coming from Assam or coming from Kerala, how these stories can be articulated and clearly communicated to the people to inspire them and inform them. Government has a great role to play at celebrating those stories.
Would you want to share your thoughts, Ronnie, on the role of government?
No, I think Arun just covered it pretty well. I would only add one thing, that I think the role of the government is two things really: being a strong catalyst and then being a strong continuity agent. And I think now one has rolled up one's sleeves and worked in rural India long enough to understand that then they need to be a catalyst. They can't be fully accountable for everything else because it's not equipped for that process. And therefore, if they just be a catalyst, create an environment for a lot of, the 3 million NGOs and working together, I think there's a phenomenal job for that. And then when changes happen, they're the only constant in continuity. That, leaders may change, politicians may change, but the government as an institution has to ensure continuity, especially in the social sector and the rural sector, very, very clearly, because they can make it into a process and a system and be there around to hold them with their little finger or their hand, as the case may be. So I think continuity and being a catalyst are two important very functions that the government can continue to play, rather than expecting them to make all the changes across the board.
Thank you. I think we are running short of time. So this is our final question. Both of you have had remarkable journeys so far, and with so much more to follow. And this question is for both of you, in fact. All of us would love to hear your most memorable insight, your learning, your beliefs, and any closing thoughts that you would want to share. First, we'll give it to Arun, and then we'll close it with our guest, Ronnie. Arun, over to you.
There are many thoughts when we started the journey, Ram, and on technology business, when we say India could be a technology power in 95, 97. We started in 83. That time it was not even technology. It used to be software programming when we started our journey, 83, 84, Narayan Murthy or all of us, when we started it was not industry at all. There was not a word industry. TCS would be maybe not more than 100 people in TCS in 83 or 200 people. We can't even imagine those vocabulary. So memorable moment from there to look at it, what the industry has seen. I'm so fortunate to see last 30 years of my journey moving so beautifully. And memorable moments could be how each dream which unfolds, each time you don't know what the horizon gets opened up. So this decade of 20, I say last year when we say we should erase the 2020, but I think 2020 is a memorable year personally for me. It's given a time for me to reflect on, I never slept on under the same roof for 300 days. This is one of the first time I would have stayed in a same home and since I came out of the college. And it is such an important time. God has given a gift for personally to me to look at it. What is the purpose of various things which I'm doing? So that's one part of it. Second part of it as a closing remark as for journalism, since the award is for journalism. I think we have on one side I'm talking about rural, but I want to look at it, what are the potential of a technology in the global marketplace. The global marketplace, we are the best people in it. If all the Google, Microsoft is run by Indian CEOs. Tomorrow the world should be in this decade. Indian product company, Indian stories of innovations has to take a center stage in the global marketplace. And that's where we need a next set of new social media design where India should emerge as a global powerhouse in technology. It come out in media, it come out in automobile, it come out in every sector which we are looking at it. And with the democracy inbuilt there, I am very, very hopeful that next decade or this coming decade, which we have entered into, could be a game changer for India by 2030.
Thank you, Arun.
Yeah, I think for me, I think it's been an ongoing journey of self-growth. I can't think of many moments in this journey where I haven't really felt that I'm enjoying what I'm doing. That there's a lot of joy that goes into that. Passion, I think, is a word that's not used. It's used too loosely and too word. But really, if you can be proud and you can enjoy what you're doing and create an impact, and I think for me, therefore, the high points have really been continuous and steady self-growth. And I think that just allows you to complete yourself. I think Arun very wisely and nicely put it by talking about what 2020 has done to everyone is really killed all our habits. His habit was being 30 days, 300 days traveling, because all of us felt that's the way something gets conducted. And now every single habit of ours has been recalibrated for us to rethink again, thinking exactly what we thought was the only way to do it. It's certainly not the only way to do it. So I think it's a very phenomenal cross-section that many individuals and many sectors that should face. The point is, are we going to let this be a sort of a distant past and get back to our normal routine? Or are we going to look at this as a recalibration moment, given that there's already been a lot of anxiety? I mean, I think we can all talk here with a good sense of fairness, but there is a lot of grief out there. There is a lot of big challenges that have happened. And I think the repercussions of this year will be felt all the way for the next 2 to 3 years in terms of economy, in terms of the poverty, in terms of many other priorities. But for me, I think the memorable part is that I hope to continuously self-grow and I want to continuously, constantly enjoy what I'm doing.
Wow. On behalf of the Polestar Foundation and all of us who watched this amazing dialogue, I would like to thank these two icons for making time to be with us and sharing their journeys, their wisdom, their humanity. They've both said this time and again in their own way, and if you can dream it, you can do it, and dream with your eyes open. Thank you so much, Arun and Ronnie, for inspiring us, and all power to you in your journeys ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie, for your
Thank you.
Thanks,
sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm blown away, honestly. First off, my compliments to Ram for steering that cargo ship of insights into such interesting territory, interesting waters. Now, the two gentlemen you saw on your screen before you are, they very nonchalantly, very modestly spoke of their origin story, about their journey, but what they've done through their lives and over the last 30 or so minutes now is to pull the veil from over the largest socio-economic innovation of this century. You see, historically, helping people has been a loss-making enterprise. It starts off with a bag of good intentions poured into a sinkhole of unsustainability. What Ronnie and Arun have done is to create a financial system that propels the economy forward without losing the joy of profit-making, without losing the joy of business, by staying on the cutting edge of technology, in the case of Arun, or by capturing the cultural zeitgeist of our times, in the case of Ronnie, and all the while helping 1 million people. I thank the stars for technology and the fact that this discussion will remain online for a long time, because it's going to need repeated viewings to unbox that fireside about unboxing notions. Now, we've seen and heard from some incredible people today, but the evening truly belongs to someone else, to 4 people, in fact, the winners of the Polestar Awards, the best in business and technology journalism, best good news story, and winner of a special award from the jury. I won't stand in the way of the viewer and the winners, so let's jump right in. First up, the best in business journalism. The nominees are and the winner is Olina Banerjee for her article, Not Open and Shut. India's Gigafactory ambitions have 3 doors to get through, which appeared in the Kent. Congratulations.
I'm very happy to have won the Best Business Feature for 2020, and I'd like to thank the Foundation for this honor. I'd also like to thank the Ken, my editors and my colleagues for giving me such a wide canvas to write and report on. I primarily write about electric vehicles and India's entry into the electric vehicle sphere and everything that goes on. And I've been very curious about the kind of policies, the kind of technical improvements that India is making in terms of taking that electric leap. And one of the most crucial things in that is be able to secure our battery needs, our energy needs. And that led me to thinking about what happens if, we were able to generate our own lithium. What happens if we became self-sufficient in terms of batteries and didn't have to depend on other countries? And then I realized that there's a whole movement going on in India, a political movement, a policy movement, to be able to secure that kind of energy for electric cars. And that's what led me to the story. I think one of the biggest challenges in reporting the story was just getting people to speak, to find the right sources, to find the people who could give you an inside peek into what really was going on in terms of building these gigafactories. I honestly think journalism, especially print journalism, is in for some tough times. Of course, everything is being driven digital and more so because of COVID. The dependence on ads, the dependence on advertisers is often a chokehold that media organizations have to contend with, and that's become even more of a pipeline problem during COVID. I think in this extremely hyper-competitive and visual form of news media world that we live in, it's getting more and more difficult to parse out the fake from the real. Journalists are at an advantage, to be honest, because we have the resources and the ability to be able to double check facts, to be able to go and speak to as many people as possible. And we should absolutely use that power to parse out what's fake from what's real. any recognition, any encouragement to journalists, especially in this day and age where the zeitgeist very much is poised against free speech, against speaking your mind, against getting to the truth of the matter is obviously very welcome. And I thank the foundation for recognizing the work of my work and the work of so many of my colleagues in the field.
Congratulations, Olina. We wish you an exciting journey on the innovative side of education, the green side of mobility, and viable answers to sustainability. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank the Polestar Foundation, Mr. Jain, the jury, for this honor. I'm very happy to have won this award on behalf of the Ken, and I'd like to thank my editors and my colleagues at the Ken for their encouragement and support. So thank you so much.
Great. And now, the nominees for the Best Feature in Technology Journalism. Before you now.
Olina.
And the winner is Pratap Vikram Singh for his article Reliance Jio's 5G push to be India's answer to Huawei. It appeared again and again.
It reassures that it is an important job to report and shine a light on things which people must know. In telecom, mobile operators buy technology from global vendors when they have to build their network. They don't produce or they don't develop technologies. They're not tech companies. So one of our sources told us that Reliance Jio has ambitions of developing an entire end-to-end 5G stack. And that was a big scoop. And my editor felt that this is a good lead which we can go to the bottom of it. And that's how it started. Media is a watchdog. In a developing country such as India, where businesses, political parties and interest groups are all vying for their own interests, there has never been a more stronger case for having an independent media. And journalists, in that sense, have a very fascinating job to do. I believe multiple mediums will exist, yet there is enormous compulsion and value in going digital, and that's what pandemic has kind of proved. But most important of all, media needs a new business model to make it viable and independent. I believe deep understanding of the subject and cross-checking information is a must. Besides a fine understanding of the sector or subject, it's important to have good sourcing, a network of informed experts and individuals, and that's a must. I have immense gratitude towards Polestar for recognizing the journalistic work. It shows that stories are not going unnoticed.
Congratulations for that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I have immense gratitude for the Ken and my editor to really give this opportunity and time to pursue this ambitious story. And absolutely deeply thankful for the Polestar to really recognize the work. Thank you so much.
That's brilliant work, Pratap. And those of you in the audience who feel that he's familiar, you're not mistaken. In 2018, Pratap won the Polestar Award for Best Story in the Business category. Only 2 more to go, Pratap. And you did speak of a viable business model, so you're speaking to the right people. We have Arun and Ronnie here. I'm sure they can crack that model even for journalism. And now for the next set of nominations, and this brings an instant smile to my face and a spring in my step. Here are the nominees for Best Good News Feature. And I'm happy to announce that the winner is Best Good News Feature, Tenzin Pema for her article in Michelin star chef Vikas Khanna's mission to feed millions in India. Failure is not an option. It appeared in the Your Story.
It's a special honor to win the Best Good News Feature Award as part of the 22nd Polestar Awards, and especially gratifying because at Your Story we truly believe in the power of positive storytelling, and we've really made it our mission to impact change through inspiration. During the nationwide lockdown, I saw how everybody in the country was coming together and trying to find ways to help those most in need during this crisis. And Vikas Khanna was one of them. But I thought what was truly inspiring about what he was doing was the fact that he was sitting thousands of miles away in New York, and finding different ways in which he could help those most in need here in India. I think historically we've always tended to celebrate, inventors, entrepreneurs and businessmen, but we've rarely celebrated the storytellers, and I think celebrating journalists really is about celebrating the storytellers. If COVID-19 pandemic has done anything, it's really forced media firms across the world to speed up their digital transformation initiatives, and it's also forced them to rethink the way they operate. As a blanket rule, I think journalists definitely need to question everything about the information, including the source. Stay humble, never think that you're too big for a story or for an assignment. Always stay open to learning, because there's always a new skill or a new subject that you can master or learn. The role of Polestar Awards is especially important in today's era of fake news, media bashing, and in the socially distant world that we live in, because Polestar Awards is one platform that recognizes not only quality journalism but also inspires the journalists of tomorrow.
Congratulations, Pema. May your story shine bright and bring hope just as your work does. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the final category of this illustrious evening is the Jury Special Mention Award. This is an award for a piece that...
Congratulations.
Can we get a few words from Tenzin, please?
Yeah. Thank you very much to the Polestar Foundation and to the esteemed jury and Mr. Jain for this award, and also for consistently celebrating excellence in journalism. I'm very honored to be a part of this legacy, and I also want to dedicate this to all my fellow journalists and also to change makers such as yourselves, for consistently making it a mission to, inspire change and to, inspire positivity in these difficult times. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Pema. That's a lesson to all of you viewers. Good news makes you move faster, sometimes too fast for your own good. And now on to the final category. This is an award for a piece that shines all on its own. The nominations for the Jury Special Mention Award, now in front of you. And the winner is Jeevan Prakash Sharma, for his article How a Delhi Engineer Dug Out Dara Shikoh's Grave, the Brother Aurangzeb Beheaded. It appeared in Outlook.
It really feels great. In fact, I have done a lot of stories in my life. I have done a lot of impactful stories. Since journalism is my passion, I keep highlighting issues, and this is the first award which I have won. A friend of mine informed me about this civil engineer from Municipal Corporation of Delhi. He told me that he had done some work on Dara Shikoh's grave. I met him, and when I was talking to him, I really found him very passionate for his subject. He was amazingly involved in that topic, and it was very surprising to know how he connected various historical dots to pinpoint conclusively that that was a place where Dara's grave existed. And I think out of 150 graves, it was really difficult to find out because a lot of historians are working, a lot of archaeologists are working on that, and they have not been able to solve this puzzle. So this excited me, and that's how I decided to do the story. It's always great and it's always good to honor journalists for their good work. It's a very challenging time for print journalism. Digital medium has become a mass medium today, and if organizations have to survive, they'll have to shift to the digital platform without compromising with the ethos of journalistic principles, I think. Try and identify subjects which you are passionate about. I mean, if you think that this subject I should write, first identify those subjects and read a lot. Have in-depth study, know each and everything about that subject. And then after that, you identify the neutral experts who can participate in your story, which you will do quite often. I really congratulate the Polestar Award team for taking such a huge efforts to scan through hundreds of articles and then identify a few of them and then honor them. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Stephen. Congratulations. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I thank my organization Outlook, my editor-in-chief, Mr. Ruben Banerjee, and the whole editorial team for the continuous support. I thank the Polestar Foundation team for keeping the whole application for nomination process so simple, so easy. This inspired me to apply, and now I'm one of the winners. So thank you so much once again.
That's wonderful. Many congratulations, Jeevan. We love your outlook of the world and of news and look forward to, with much interest, to the rest of your work. Can we have a few words from Arun and Ronnie for the winners, please?
Ronnie, please.
Yeah, I think how you all encapsulated, what that means. I think the first thing that came across for me at least, was your total respect for collaborative work, total respect for team, and the importance of storytelling. I also think just with the way in which and the clarity of thought process that goes into it, these are phenomenal examples to imbibe. I think today journalism needs to get its next level of respect. There are a few cases where some people may feel that credibility has been lost, but I think it's fascinating because it's people like you all that enhance and bring back credibility to journalism, to storytelling, to factual reporting. to taking that extra effort to actually go out there and report on something, make those sacrifices, understand the responsibility with which the power of the pen is for you to be able to do the research to make it happen. So once again, congratulations to everyone.
Yes, so I'm looking at this journalism from last 22 years. So each time I meet all of you, the winners of the award, and the kind of a work moving year on year. And if I look at the 22 years of various awards and how the India has moved, there's a correlation like a 5-year planning commission used to be there in India. So every 5 years, the type of topics which you pick it up, the type of stories you pick it up, and the type of the way you articulate those stories, though the content is impactful, but they are different, and it's constantly growing. And what kind of articles on technology used to be in '98 used to be the Microsoft did this and some international company did this. It was never a question of what Indian entrepreneurship has done something or what company did it about the revenue numbers. It was never a deep depth stories. And to current level, one get into highly depth analysis and what the message you have shared. I think each message has a clarity of thought in early career of yours. So I think you will be, I wish you all the best. You can make a huge difference because if you learn the art of storytelling at this young age, I think you can make a difference to the country in next few decades, coming few decades. So thank you and congratulations for winning these awards.
Thank you so much, Arun and Ronnie. With that, quite reluctantly, we come to the end of this evening. An incredible, fascinating year for journalism. Another incredible, fascinating edition of Polestar Awards. On behalf of the Polestar Foundation, our sincere thanks to each and everyone who made this event a success it is today, and a force for good it has become. The guidance and vision of the Polestar Foundation Management and Advisory Committee, the integrity of the jury panel, the tireless efforts of the organizing team. I am grateful to our guests, not just for their presence, but also for the quality of their participation. It was inspiring and humbling to listen to you. I would also like to thank the nominees, the press and industry, and each one of you in the audience who took time out on a weekday to be present for this occasion. To a tiny extent, I do thank myself for holding on to this opportunity with both hands. On behalf of the entire Polestar team, I look forward to meeting you all next year at the 23rd edition of the Polestar Awards. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you.